Aloha and welcome to A Course in Miracles, the Workbook for Students, Lesson 73, I Will That There Be Light. And I'm just happy that you're doing the course with me today. It's an honor to do the course with you, and I hope that you're getting a lot out of it and that it's inspiring you to come back and to want to do these lessons with your whole heart, rather than feeling like you have to do them or you're being coerced into doing them. But that it's something that you want to do because you're beginning to really see freedom for yourself and freedom for others. So once again, thanks for doing the course with me. And it's a joy to do the course with you. Today we are considering the will you share with God. This is not the same as the ego's idle wishes, out of which darkness and nothingness arises. The will you share with God has all the power of creation in it. So the ego makes seemingly real things, but they're really nothingness. And creation makes eternal things. So there's a difference. You notice idle wishes of the ego compared to the will that we share with God. That's what we're talking about today. The ego's wishes are not idle in the sense that they can make a world of illusions in which your belief can be very strong. I mean, just look around at the world that the ego's idle wishes has made, and it sure seems very believable, But still, it's not real. The ego cannot make anything that is real. Idle wishes and grievances are partners or co-makers in picturing the world you see. So it's these thoughts, our idle wishes, and our grievances thoughts, that the Course says are partners in co-making, in picturing the world we see. Projection equals perception. The world is made by, we perceive what we project outside of ourselves, or what appears to be outside of ourselves. Idle wishes and grievances are partners or co-makers in picturing the world you see. The wishes of the ego gave rise to it, the world that you see. And the ego's need for grievances, which are necessary to maintaining it. And I think that it here is maintaining the world we see. But it could be the ego, because the ego definitely needs and thrives off of our grievances. But I think the pronoun it is referring to the world. So the wishes of the ego gave rise to it, the world, and the ego's need for grievances, which are necessary to maintain it, people it, the world, with figures that seem to attack you and call for righteous judgment. So the ego creates a perception of a world where we're being constantly attacked. And so we're righteous in defending ourselves and attacking them back and having grievances. So they stand, the figures become these figures that seem to attack you and call for righteous judgment. These figures become the middlemen that the ego employs to traffic in grievances. They stand between your awareness of your brother's reality. Beholding them, these grievances, you do not know your brothers or yourself. All we see is the grievances. The grievances are like a veil that keeps us from seeing the miracle, seeing our true self, seeing our brothers as something, as what they really are, rather than just seeing them as a body. Your will is lost to you in this strange bartering in which guilt is traded back and forth. What a picture. Your will is lost to you in this strange bartering in which guilt is traded back and forth, and grievances increase with each exchange. You know, it's like the world is constantly perceiving the attacker, the one that's attacked them, as guilty, and then they attack back, justified, and the other side sees them as guilty, and it's just this exchange back and forth of guilt and grievances. And can such a world as this have been created by the will the Son of God shares with his Father? And of course not. Not a God of love. Did God create disaster for his Son? Creation is the will of both together, the Son and the Father. Would God create a world that kills himself? And of course not. Now, in the God of the Bible, yes, the God of the Bible, which is sort of the personification of the ego, does create a world like this and does, kill and creates bodies only to kill them. But we're not really, the Course is not talking about the God of the Bible, even though it's using biblical terms, like the Father or God. But it's what the Course does is it uses these terms because it's the spiritual language that we're familiar with. But it gives them a true meaning, not the meaning that we've given them. So it sort of reinterprets these symbols for us so that we can understand the true meaning. Like the true meaning, what is God? What is God is love? What does that mean, God is love? Does God of love create a world? And God's the creator. So did God create a world where there's no love, or there's love and hate, or where people are loving each other and then turn around and killing one another? It's insanity. Only an insane God could create something like that. So, would God create a world that kills himself? Today we would try once more to reach the world that is in accordance with your will. The light is in it because it does not oppose the will of God. It is not heaven, but the light of heaven shines on it. Darkness has vanished. The ego's idle wishes have been withdrawn. Yet the light that shines upon this world reflects your will. And so it must be in you that we will look for it. Now, this is what the Course calls the real world. It's still an illusion, but it's the real world. It says the light of heaven shines on it, and darkness has vanished. But it's not heaven. But it's so much like heaven that in the later part it says that we can easily cross over into the real thing. Your picture of the world can only mirror what is within. So we're looking within to find this real world, and once we see the love there, then we'll see the love outside of ourselves. So the world, once again, we have this idea that the world is a mirror of what is in our mind. Or right now what we're seeing is that we're in our wrong mind, or the split mind. So we're not seeing what's in the right mind. We're seeing what's in this mind that believes that it's been separated from its creator. So that it's being projected as though we're outside of ourselves. So here's the same idea that the world is a picture or a mirror of what is within. The source of neither light nor darkness can be found without outside of ourselves. Grievances darken your mind, and you look out on a darkened world. So that's why we want to get rid of grievances, because they're darkening our mind. And then we look out on a darkened world where we just find something wrong with everything that we see. We're just criticizing and critical of everyone and everything, and nothing can please us. But forgiveness, which is the Course's tool for freeing us, forgiveness lifts the darkness, reasserts our will, and lets us look upon a world of light. That's what forgiveness does. We've repeatedly emphasized that the barrier of grievances is easily passed and cannot stand between you and your salvation. The reason is very simple. Do you really want to live in hell? Do you really want to weep and suffer and die? So we have the choice. It says it's not hard. The barrier of grievances is easily passed. We just choose to pass it. We just choose not to live in hell. We choose heaven instead. And so forget the ego's arguments, which seek to prove that all of this is really heaven. And I'm sure you know what that means, that the ego is trying to convince us that this world that we perceive is really heaven. Isn't that crazy? But we have to be able to see that it's not heaven to want to easily make the choice for heaven and to let go of all these grievances. You know it's not so. You know it's not heaven. You cannot want this for yourself. And there is a point beyond which illusions cannot go. Suffering is not happiness. And it is happiness that we all really want. When it comes down to it, what do we really want? I mean, we think we want this thing or that thing or this relationship, but why do we want it? Because we think it's going to bring us happiness. And nothing in this world is going to bring us happiness. And we got to see that eventually to where we will make another choice. That's the whole point that A Course in Miracles is telling us, is we're here because we chose to be here. And we can escape just by making another choice. Such is your truth. And so salvation is your will as well, because we want to be happy. That's our will. We want to be happy. That's our truth. You want to succeed in what we are trying to do today. We undertake it with your blessing and your glad accord. This is kind of like what we were talking about before. This is Jesus. We're working together with Jesus. That's the we. Us and Jesus together. And it says, you want to succeed in what you're trying to do today. And that should be our motive for this course. It shouldn't be, oh, we got to do, God wants me to do this Course in Miracles, so I better do it. Oh man, I've only got a few hours left in the day. Let me hurry up and do these things. No. Jesus needs us to want to do this, to want to be free. And so that's what Jesus is trying to encourage us to see. Look, you're not happy, but you can be happy. Your will is to be happy. The Father's will is for you to be happy. So why aren't you happy? Because you're choosing hell over heaven. Because the ego has convinced you that this is heaven. But it's not heaven. And I want you to see that so we can work together, Jesus is saying, to be free, for you to really be happy, for you to really find the kingdom of heaven, which is within you. It's not out there where the ego has you looking. That's what this is saying. So it needs your blessing, this setting us free, this, what the Course is, Jesus is helping us to do. We undertake it with your blessing and your glad accord. So what we're trying to do today is to reach that place within ourselves. And Jesus is going to help us. But we got to really want it. It's got to have our blessing. We will succeed today if you remember that you want salvation for yourself. If you don't really want it, we won't succeed today. But if you do remember that you really want this because this is going to bring you happiness, we will succeed. We, us and Jesus. You want to accept God's plan because you share in it. You have no will that can really oppose it, and you do not want to do so. Salvation is for you. Above all else, you want the freedom to remember who you really are. Jesus is like, telling us here, look, this is your will. You want this. You want your salvation. You want to remember who you are. And just remember that and we'll succeed. Today, it is the ego that stands powerless before your will. And that's what we're doing. Remember the idea for today? I will there be light. So it has to be our will, our glad willingness. Your will is free, and nothing can prevail against it. Your will is free. Free will. You can choose. There's nothing, the Course is going to show us that everything we are getting exactly what we want, exactly what we choose. And that's hard for us to believe, but our will is free. And we can make another choice. And there's nothing that can prevail against it. That's another biblical thing there, Jesus is using, where says he's going to build his church and the gates of hell will not prevail against it. Therefore, we undertake the exercise for today in happy confidence, certain that we will find what it is your will to find. And remember what it is your will to remember. No idle wishes can detain us nor deceive us with an illusion of strength. Today let your will be done and end forever the insane belief that it is hell in place of heaven that you choose. See, we have the will. We have a free will. We can choose heaven. And we just got to realize that we've chosen hell. I mean, sometimes, things will happen and they'll give you like wonderful pleasure for a little time, but it never lasts. And that's kind of the ego's tactic and Jesus is trying to help us see that we really don't understand the difference between pleasure and pain. Because we're not in our right mind. We're kind of crazy. And we want things that are going to bring us pain. I mean, I definitely, at my age, I can look back and see that the pain in my life has come from things that I've chosen. And sometimes knowing that they were going to end up like, oh yeah, I know I'm going to have a hangover in the morning. But right now, party on, But anyway, we will begin our longer practice periods with the recognition that God's plan for salvation, and only His, is wholly in accord with your will. We've got to remember that. This is what I want. This is what God wants, but this is what I want. It's not the purpose of an alien power thrust upon you unwillingly. Like I spent a lot of my life afraid of the will of God, thinking, oh man, Jesus went to the cross and He wants me to go to the cross. The will of God is for me to be crucified, that kind of thing. And I was afraid of the things that God would ask me to do for Him. Like I didn't think God was really concerned with my happiness, but He was concerned with His happiness, getting what He wanted done. And He had loved me by giving Jesus as a sacrifice, innocent sacrifice to please His wrath. And so in my gratitude for that love, I had to obey Him and do whatever He wanted me to do. So it was really about God. It really wasn't about my happiness. And I was often very afraid or concerned what He was going to want me to do for Him. I often thought, I don't think I'm going to like this. Because look at Jesus. He was doing the Father's will. Look what happened to Him. And Jesus said, if you follow me, you got to pick up your cross and follow me. And I'm like, pick up my cross and follow you, what? To be crucified? But that's the God of the Old Testament or the Bible or whatever, but that is not the true. That's not what love is. That's not what any parent wants. Any parent, I'm a parent, and I can tell you right now that what I want for my children is their happiness. And I want to do everything I can for them to realize that happiness. They're not my slaves to do what I want them to, so I'll be happy. That's crazy. I'm an earthly parent, and even I don't think like that. Anyway. So, it's not the purpose of an alien power. God, is this alien power thrust upon you unwillingly. It is the one purpose here on which you and your Father are in perfect accord. You will succeed today. The time appointed for your release, for the release of the Son of God from hell and from all idle wishes. His will is now restored to his awareness. He is willing this very day to look upon the light in him and be saved. After reminding yourself of this and determining to keep your will clearly in mind, tell yourself with gentle firmness and quiet certainty, I will that there be light. Let me behold the light that reflects God's will and my will. Let me see this light at the center of my being, my true self. Then let your will assert itself, join with the power of God, and united with yourself, with capital S, put the rest of the practice period under their guidance. Join with them as they lead the way. Okay, so that's our 2 longer practice periods. And in the shorter practice periods that we do throughout the day, we want to just make that declaration of what you really want. And just say it. I will there be light. Darkness is not my will. And this should be repeated several times an hour. It is a most important, however, to apply today's idea in this form immediately if you're tempted to hold a grievance of any kind. Any kind. Like, man, I'm pissed off about the weather or whatever it is. Any kind of grievance. I will that there be light. Darkness is not my will. This will help you let your grievances go instead of cherishing them and hiding them in darkness. So that's the kind of day we're looking for today. Day of being free from all of our grievances, a day of finding the light within, the day of exerting our free will that is the same as God's will, that we be happy, that we reach this light inside of us, in our own mind. May you reach it today. God bless you. I love you. Have a great time. And I'll see you tomorrow. Mahalo.